Hi guys, my name's Steve. I'm the head of food at Edinburgh Food Social, and I thought that the best way to guarantee a perfect egg was to show you how to poach one. Now, there's a good chance that you already know how to poach a perfect egg, but I have to say that I've probably taught a few people this over the years, and hopefully it'll work a charm. But like I say, if you know how to poach a great egg, then you just go ahead and use your own technique, because everybody's got a slightly different technique, and it sometimes appears a little bit controversial. So I hope that I don't come across too controversial here today. So it's not a Steven Spielberg production. I hope that you don't mind awfully. Just a wee thing done on the iPhone until we get better filming facilities. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I've got here. So I've got some organic eggs. These were delivered by Michael from Smashing Eggs from Bonington Farm, which is just outside of Peebles. Organic eggs. If you want to poach a great egg, start off with a great egg, okay? So that's what we have here. You've got one of these in your box. We've got some salt. You can use any type of salt that you like. We use Hebridean sea salt from Scotland. And then I've got a little bit of vinegar, which you also have in a cup. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to replace it with a pot. And that pot has in it some water, and that water is just about to come to the boil. Okay, so we're using induction technology here today, nice and quick, and I just moved it from one stove onto the other. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to be able to see this water just coming up to a gentle boil. Now the pan is pretty full, okay, it's probably about 2/3 full, and then that's going to guarantee that the depth of the water is going to help with you poaching the egg. Now we're going to add some salt into the water. That's going to help give flavour to the egg. And then we're also going to add some vinegar, but before we add that vinegar, I'm just going to turn that water down so it's just a gentle boil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to crack the egg. Now some of you might be poaching a couple of eggs at a time, so I always find it's easier just to crack that into a little bowl. So we'll just crack our egg, we'll pop it into a dish, and then it just means that you're not cracking it on the side of the pan, you're not breaking the shell and the egg's falling in, everything's a little bit more controlled, okay? So we've got our egg broken, and it's just into that little dish here, okay? Now, what I'm going to do next, and you can see that water is just underneath the boil. It just kind of comes to a wee simmer every now and again, because that's the way the induction works, but it's not boiling too hard, okay? And we're going to add the vinegar. Lots of people say, oh, don't use vinegar, don't want to taste the vinegar. Of course you don't want to taste the vinegar. That's why you don't put too much in, okay? Just about a spoonful. And then here's the trick, okay? So we're going to just pop the egg in, and we're going to keep that dish quite close to the water. We're going to pour the egg in, okay? So kind of firm but fair. Don't throw it in from a height, okay? And then I'm going to take a spoon, and I'm going to stir that water around. Okay. And what that does is that releases the egg from the bottom, okay? And it also helps to give it a little bit of shape, okay? You don't need to whisk the water around to make this incredible kind of whirlpool effect or anything. You just need to make sure the water is just underneath the boil, pop the egg in, give it a wee stir, and if I was cooking 2 or 3 eggs, I would just put 1, 2, 3, and then I would give the water a little stir, okay? Now at this stage, I'm going to turn that up just a tiny little touch. The water is just going to come back to a gentle boil, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to put a lid on that pan, and I'm going to set a timer for 4 minutes, okay? Now, if you didn't have a lid for that pan, you could always use a dinner plate or a starter plate. The secret to poaching a nice egg that's just uniformly cooked and not a runny white or an undercooked yolk or an overcooked yolk, is just cooking eggs gently, okay? And that's going to make them really nice and soft and delicious as well, and you're not going to get that rubbery kind of outside, okay? So the more gently you cook eggs, then the more delicious they're going to be and the more evenly cooked they're going to be, okay? And by turning that heat off and putting that lid on, that's going to ensure that nice even cooking, okay? Now you can see that we've fast forwarded a little bit and we're ready for this egg to come out, okay? So remember that that hob is off, so we needn't worry too much about moving that, and we can bring a little plate and we're getting ready to take that egg out. Now remember, eggs are different sizes. This is nature that we're talking about now. They're not all necessarily uniform. If your egg's a little bit smaller, you give it 30 seconds less. If it's a little bit bigger, you could give it 30 seconds more. And you can always just have a wee check, so we can take this off. Okay, and what we're looking for, we turn this over, okay, is just a nice soft yolk and that white just being set, and then these little bits here, these kind of ghostly white bits, we can just take some of those off. And what we'll do is we'll pop that onto a little cloth, okay, and that'll just take away any excess moisture. Okay. If that's too much of a faff, you can always just put it straight onto the plate, but it is quite nice just to do that, okay? And then what we'll do is we're going to have in this dish our lovely salad, which is going to be topped with this egg, which is going to act as a kind of a sauce almost. And then we're going to always make sure when we poach eggs, we add a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and then that is a perfectly poached egg.